when I look back on Resident Evil Village in terms of a review, I really think that it is much less about positives versus negatives or likes versus dislikes, and much more about a expectation versus reality sort of situation. I say this as a person who prefers to go into every game that I play as cold as I can. So I didn't really know too much about this game ahead of time. But I will say that through the little tidbits and promotional materials and things like that I saw as they made their rounds through the internet, I was able to construct and create sort of a preconceived idea of what this game was going to end up being. For example, the expectation was that Lady Dimitrescu would end up being the primary villain of this game, in sort of a Castlevania-esque lordship over this small European village. The reality wasn't too far off, I suppose. She definitely resides in her family-owned castle, which does overlook the village. But she does so as one of 4 underlings to the true villain of this story. Another expectation involved the fate and I suppose the overall involvement of Chris Redfield. I genuinely assumed that this was going to be the game that puts him on the beginning down the path to the dark side. Very much an Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader sort of thing. Which, if you really stop to think about it, you really break it down and look at everything that he's experienced and everything that he's been through, it really makes a lot of sense. I mean, from Umbrella to the BSAA and everything with the bioterrorism. I mean, he was part of the original Mansion incident. He survived that. He is under the impression that he lost his longtime partner, only to realize that not only has she been alive this whole time, but she has turned evil thanks to his nemesis in Wesker. Then, at one point, he loses the entire squad of soldiers that he is responsible for as they are wiped out. All the way up to more current events where he holds himself personally responsible for the things that have happened to Ethan and Mia Winters. Maybe not directly, but sort of in some aspects. So you take a guy like that has done nothing but suffer, that just can't seem to get ahead. Every time something good happens, he loses. You take a guy like that, and you'd expect that at some point it would dawn on him, the reality would cross his mind of, no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I risk my life, no matter how much I sacrifice, people close to me die. things happen to me that are outside of my control. And regardless of all of this, there's always going to be another evil corporation. There's always going to be another bioterrorist. There's going to be another somebody somewhere messing around with some sort of virus that puts everything that I've worked so desperately to save in jeopardy again. And at some point, no matter how protagonistic and heroic he is, he's got to run out of things to lose. And he's just got to get tired of living through everything that he's lived through and experiencing everything he's experienced and suffering through everything he's suffered through. At some point he's just got to go, if you can't beat him, join him. And he's just got to figure it's easier to succumb to those demons, to let himself be swallowed up by that evil and that darkness, and maybe be injected by whatever the virus or whatever the BOW-esque thing is. And I fully expected to see that maybe if Lady Dimitrescu would be the primary villain, he would end up to be one of, if not the main werewolf that we saw in the trailers or on the back of the box. The reality there, I don't think was too far off either. Because while he may not be an antagonist or really evil, he definitely has gone rogue, because he is tired of the shady way and the shady dealings that the BSAA handle things. Or in some cases, most cases, don't handle things. And so him and his little band of merry men have gone into business for themselves to make sure that the main villain of this game doesn't succeed in her mission. Very much against the BSAA's orders. So, there's that. Now, the game as a whole, in my opinion, is pretty great. The whole thing kind of feels like a love letter to long-running fans of the series, because for me, I kind of noticed little bits and pieces of things, little Easter eggs pertaining to nearly every game from the rest of the series. The way that Lady Dimitrescu kind of stalks you and hunts you around her castle, similarly to the way that a tyrant or a nemesis would. Then you have the Donna fight with her doll, which is very much a different vibe from the rest of the game. This is a level or a segment that stands very much on its own in my mind for how creepy and unsettling and psychological it is. And it immediately reminded me of something that you might see in, say, a Resident Evil 7. Then there is, of course, Monroe and the Duke, who is the merchant, which is extremely reminiscent in my mind of an RE4 or an RE5. And there's not too much of this game that I didn't like, that I can say. I really thoroughly enjoyed the way that they chose to tie this game in narratively to the overarching story of the Resident Evil series, making putting forth the idea that Mother Miranda was the mentor and the primary inspiration for Dr. Spencer in creating the Umbrella Corporation and the T-Virus. And she definitely was the convincing factor in getting that ball rolling. So I guess in a roundabout way, she is more than responsible for everything that's happened in this universe. Which is, like I said, I love that. I found that extremely interesting because I was very curious as to how they were going to make this game matter in terms of the whole broader picture. And, I kind of enjoyed the... I don't want to say subtlety of it, because I guess, when you break it down and kind of come to those realizations, I don't really remember how they propose it to you. It might have been through notes and documents and stuff, but it wasn't necessarily like in your face, like boom, this is it. It was just kind of like, oh, by the way, like, here's Dr. Spencer and here's Mother Miranda and here's the relationship that spawned this whole ordeal, and I just really, really liked how that all came together. I guess when I think about it, if I have to say anything negative, there's only one thing that I can talk about. I had a lot of trouble buying into Ethan Winters as the main character. I mean, when you compare him side by side to the great characters, either good or evil, of the series, I mean, compare him to Chris and Claire Redfield, to Leon Kennedy, to Jill Valentine, even Ava, as much as I don't like Ava. Compare him to those guys. What is he? He's a system engineer, basically a computer technician, just a really average Joe whose wife sucks. I mean really. Yes, I guess you can blame the entire event of Resident Evil 7 on the little girl who kind of baited him and manipulated him into coming, and kind of, she definitely was responsible. But it was his wife who was doing all the stuff with this criminal organization, handling the I guess babysitting and transportation of BOWs, dealing in things that she had no business doing, and she just sucks, and he sucks because he's just a normal guy that just had a shitty day, and it's like the game, to a certain degree, the game or the series knows it, because it's like, okay, they tried to make him cool. They tried to sell us on the fact of like, oh, he got military arms training from Chris Redfield to be able to defend himself. So that's why he knows how to deal in guns and everything. So I guess he's badass. They gave him the mold powers, I guess, to make him seem more significant to the overall situation. How did they bring that across? Because they kicked the shit out of him every chance they got. I mean, he's literally a punching bag where it's body horror, and he gets his hands cut off or fingers bitten off or whatever. He just loses and then grows back because he's got mold powers, and that's cool, I guess. And then, for whatever reason, when the poor guy succeeds after getting his ass whooped for God knows how long by, whatever gets in his way, they give him the most corniest Duke Nukem-esque one-liners, totally 80s, 90s action hero one-liners that just don't... I can't do it. I can't look at a Leon or look at a Chris Redfield or anybody from this franchise and say that Ethan Winters is even remotely close to them. He's a dork. He's just a guy that has bad luck. That just has a shitty wife who has one shitty day, gets himself killed, resurrected by the mold. By the way, that's, kind of an ending to the game that everybody predicted except me, so that kind of blew my mind a little bit. But they tried to make him matter. They tried to make him cool. They tried to make him important. But he's just not. He's just Ethan. Ethan who says corny, stupid things at the most inopportune moments. And, in between, around that, when he's not saying these stupid, corny things, he's getting his ass whooped. And I'm supposed to care about that. I'm supposed to believe that he's some gun-toting, rock-punching, girl-stealing badass. I'm sorry, I can't, and I'm not going to. I don't know. You guys probably don't even care about a review. If you're clicked onto this video, you probably want to know where Resident Evil Village ended up in terms of my ranking of the entire franchise. I thought about it good and hard. Obviously, I've had a lot of time to. Ethan aside, I would put this game probably at number 3. So essentially everything gets pushed down a spot to squeeze this in there. And I say number 3 because I don't think it beats the RE2 remake. That's a tough game to beat. Just a overall flawless experience, lots of fun, and just a beautiful game. And I don't think it beats RE7 as just an entire experience. But I think number 3, it's an enjoyable game. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely more in the veins of an RE4, RE5, definitely more actiony, not quite so egregious as 6, definitely more grounded in reality than, as possible as that is for Resident Evil. But yeah, long story short, not a big fan of Ethan Winters. I hope he's not a protagonist in the future. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with his daughter, I guess. And is he alive? Isn't he? I don't really care. But in my overall list of the ranking for the franchise, RE Village is probably number 3. So, until next time, guys, we'll see you later.